Welcome everyone. This will be the first reading of what I'm writing, which is a RuneScape novel. Daemonheim, written by Emin Chamo, also known as Emdac in the RuneScape game. Chapter 1. Lum's Son. The river Lum ever has it flown beneath our feet and swiftly moved downstream to the Kharidian desert. My mother, Senaya, came from that region. She was a Kharidian gem trader who made much fortune on her expeditions to the lands of Mistalin and Asgarnia. Not far was our home from Al-Kharid, for we lived near the great narrow pass into it. Our house was on the east coast of the river Lum, where many others lived and traded with the goblins. Sometimes these feisty creatures would cause trouble, but we would always make amends with them by gifting them our bread, which would fill their stomach for a period of time. Somebody was knocking on the door. My cat rushed in as I opened it up. The chain of my lock was still tied to the grip hold. "Who are you?" I said. "Sir Emdac of Lumbridge, son of Ardak of Rimmington." "Who are you?" I said, refusing to affirm my identity. "It is the city guard. We have received complaints of racket at night, sounds of broken glass, magic spells and the smell of alchemy. I never was fond of them. They always wanted to put their nose into people's business and assumed the worst for the slightest of crimes. I wasn't a Zamorakian emissary, nor was I one of those crazed Gathixian druids collecting herbs near the riverbank. Far away would I stay from both. The Zamorakians roamed near the ancient remnants of Farinthri, far to the north at the borders of the wilderness, so I would hope that the guards have some reason in their heads not to bother me with stupid assumptions and rumors. Open the door, sir. We merely wish to speak with you." I leaned my head at the opening to look at them. "Merely wish to speak? How many are you?" "3. I opened up and took off the chain from behind the door, attached to one of the pillars. "Peace be with you. We have received complaints from your neighbors." "Whom?" I asked. The guards stood silently. I suppose they were timid to reveal the identity of the poor wretch that had nothing smarter to do than push the boundaries of my privacy. Although I suppose last night's alchemy was quite a large portion. But I couldn't subside the sounds, even if I wanted to. "Sir Emdac, may you grace us as guests. We shall merely talk, for there is more to mention than this." "Certainly, but shall the Duke wish to discard me into the dungeons beneath the castle? It would surely be a great injustice, for I have nothing to hide, and I am no minion of Zamorak, nor do I pledge my allegiance to false gods," I said and pointed to my laboratory, which carried no signs of patronage or support for those that wish to destroy the edicts. "And those swords, Sir Emdac, a fine collection, yet I assume they serve a purpose," one of the guards said. "They do indeed, to defend my home and family, or at least what is left of their memory, for my father serves the elves now in Prifddinas, and my mother is long gone, passed away to the Creator's embrace. May her soul rest." "We are sorry for your loss, Master Emdac. The Duke Horatio has sent us to this periphery of the township. We have found certain problems with regards to our border patrol, and wish to merely inform and keep informed of what occurs near the great pass to Al-Kharid," said the guard. He was of aristocratic build, a fine gentleman with a fine beard, unlike the others who seemed to me as older guards experienced in hassling the locality. They wore the duchy's white and light blue armor and seemed prudent in their words as always. My clock ticked, and the sun rose above the great Kharidian gorge. The light fully began to enter my room. It was always odd to wake up in this region, as the gorge blotted out the sun's light in the morning for a slightly longer period than in other regions. "I do not mean to be of much troubles, Master Emdac, but—" "You may," I said, "but do not wreck anything on your way upstairs." I understood immediately he wanted to check the second floor, and so I gave him permission. But luckily the foolish guards had no idea of a few secret planks in the left corner of my parlor that I hid beneath the very chairs they sat on. They led to the basement, where I kept all the invention gear and archaeological tools from the dig site northeast of Varrock on my journeys. The guards were not fond of researchers, nor was Duke Horatio. It was a taboo to bring such gadgets and experiment with them in the township. The panicked anti-Zamarakian attitude made them want to get rid of any kind of novelty in the township, which was understandable. Those fanatics have only gotten worse in recent times, especially after the rumors of the edicts being slightly broken from within the wilderness. The guard went upstairs, but was soon to come back down as he could not see much except my treasury. Sir Emdac, I will ask you to... No problem. I will open the caskets for you. I have no doubt duty doesn't call you to take a coin or two. I stood up and went with him to open up all the caskets and chests I had with me. It only stored valuables, weaponry, and coins. It made me think how I could easily show them a fine crossbow made in Berthorpe by some of the newest craftsmen, but I could not show them a small cog, some electrified containers, and auras from the far west. Everything seems to be in order. We may continue our tea, said the guard as he went back down the stairs, although he stopped briefly at the stairs and looked at the crack in the wall. Fool probably thought I had something to store there, but it was some mere damage in the wall because we did not paint the spot properly with the goblins 12 years ago when my mother was still alive. Thus the crack stayed and rippled with the time that passed over it. A ripple in the wall strong enough to hold the gaze of a majestic duchy guard. The other two guards were courteous enough to prepare the tea for us as we returned. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I do apologize for my previous assumptions of your colleague. Now, as far as I remember, I said, and sat on the chair to rest and prepare my feet for today's harvest. You have other business not regarding the complaints of my anxious neighbors, who still believe in the crash of the edicts? Yes, Sir Emdac. I believe it would be fitting for us to introduce ourselves before we further make inquiry. From this point onwards, we simply wish to gain information from what you know of the current events at the border. Traders from the northern lands? I saw them heading into Al-Kharid a few weeks ago, I said. These were not mere traders, said one of the guards. If I may introduce myself and my colleagues, Sir Xander of the High Falador Guard, my colleague, whom you may know. Yes, Sir Harlan, captain of the Lumbridge Guard. He smiled. Aye. And the floor inspector? I inquired. Sir Fritz Malakoi of the Varrock Intelligence Guard. I understood the business was more serious than I thought now. 3 guards from the leading departments at Falador, Varrock and Lumbridge. It was never good news when Asgarni and Mistelin united forces, albeit admirable to see them cooperate. The envoy of the Fremennik? How many people passed with them? Asked Xander, the Falador guard. I believe some 7 dozens. 70 or more men and women, armed to the teeth, yet passing with peaceful hand gestures down the Goblin Road near the gorge, I said, and noticed the royal mark on his white armor. I assume he was under the command of Amek Vars. Vars, the current ruler of Asgarnia, is a family friend of mine, ever since knights were dispatched to Lumbridge when we had to fight the dragon of Rodek Placehold. The old man tried to raise a red-breed dragon as a pet. Oh, how wrong was he! Thankfully, the Vars assembly dispatched Sir Vant. In the darkness of Rodek's cellar, which I used to call a dungeon, as he explained it to be so wide to house a dragon, we lured the beast with food and drugged it and brought the whole ceiling down upon the beast. Sir Vant and I remained friends after that. He called my family for a supper in Falador's White Knight Castle a year ago, in 178. There I met with the noble Vars and spoke to him of the new technologies being developed in the Elven lands. He employed me to help the White Knights on several projects, and then I returned home to continue with my work on alchemy and crossbow improvements suited for the traders across East Gelenor. Did Sir Amek Vars send you here? I asked. That is none of your concern, citizen. Stick to answering questions, and we shall depart in due time soon, said Xander, the Night Guard. I will, but send my regards to Sir Vars. I used to serve the elite order of his knights a year ago. In what way? Said Harlan, curious to see if he can get me to slip my tongue into the secrets of my endeavor. In the way of service to His Majesty Valence, and for maintaining order in the land. And with what means? Added Sir Fritz. With the means of magic and alchemy under supervision and control of the Knightly Assembly's order. No more, no less in terms of that, just like the number of Fremennik I mentioned. I answered in hopes to divert from the topic and save myself from any uncomfortable questions. Ah yes, said Harlan, gulping the tea. Excuse me, he coughed. Do you know of anyone that might have followed them? And what would the Fremennik be doing here, all the way across half the world? I began to think of Mother. She always had a feeling for details such as these, but I simply could not reconcile between the Fremennik and what they could be searching for in these parts. I did, however, hear that a trading ship had sailed into the Kharidian port across the Lam Delta. The reason for this obviously was the rare metals they brought with themselves from one of their lands. Oddly enough though, when the ship sailed, it did not depart for the old route north of Karamja, but went eastward around and presumably to distant Canifis. This was the only strange thing I could recall. My very bones shiver at the idea of touching the cold ground of the Fremennik. They are a rough and rugged people. They know no reason to be tired except for sleep, and even in their sleep, they are quick to awake. The night sat silently. Suddenly the sun flashed into my eyes, as it reflected from a glass that moved somewhere outside of the window, and briefly, just briefly, as if I saw someone in the distance carrying bow and arrow, as well as green leather, and they moved with the green trees around them, as if a shark emerging from the sea of leaves, only to disappear soon again behind the distant anvil shops. Sir Emdac? One of the knights called, and my focus shifted quickly to his form. His cloak elegantly covered the knightly plate legs of his armor, and he bore the signs of a Master Fletcher with him. I pretended to feel ill, as I wanted to get rid of them. Gentlemen, I would be more than happy to let you inquire into my thoughts of the whole issue, but I believe the portents of a headache are stinging at my mind. So I beg you that we capitulate on this matter by saying, the Fremennik are worth investigating. In fact, I know of a man that may be able to help you, and since I have been in somewhat an economic crisis, it might be suitable that I offer myself to help you in seeing what they are meddling with. I am personally in favor of Duke Horatio's policies on the influx of migrants from far lands. Allow me to visit a friend of mine. Wizard Aaron is his name. He will inform me of any major changes in the Fremennik lands. Might I mention, Sir Emdac, that the Royal Assembly of Knights does not require any more meddling of citizens in the matters of border policies. However, I will definitely not be the first to prevent you from engaging in your research, said Sir Fritz. And might I add to this, without alchemy, or even a trace of it, not even in abstraction, Sir Emdac, without the permission of the Knightly Council's supervision, Xander contended. I have understood that before you even said it, Sir Xander, and then allow me to escort you in grace, The headache that's shadowing my mind's essence is becoming unbearable. The guards and the knights sat in calm, and further went on to ask me about my family and how my father toils in thriftiness. As much as I wanted them to leave earlier, I was also becoming fond of their courtesy and regard for my family's story. But as I knew the ways of Sir Domin may know order beyond goodness and truth, I never trusted the White Knights to the fullest, and this doubtful meander of their ways taught me to respect their humane and familial regard, albeit from a distance. After all, they were subject to a false god, a claimant to divinity who had no rights, and only a few of my kind remain on Gelenor now. Besides my father, younger sister, and myself, I knew only 5 people who spoke of the primordial way, and I knew exactly where each and every one of them lived. Iroa, a blonde-haired warrior I knew from my duels in Al-Kharid, who professed his faith into the greater truth, the One. Elahain, an elf whom my father convinced to abandon the worship of Seren. Rigvald the Tall, a Fremennik tailor who promised me to teach his children of our faith. Thea, a young woman of my age, who works in the Lumbridge windmill. And Derek Golding, a former Zamarakian Kinshra, who abandoned his ways after I spared him in the wilderness. Derek became a great ally to me as he started giving me intel on what the Zamarakians were doing. 4 months ago, as I was departing from the White Knights, he told me of a ritual the Zamarakians were performing in hopes to tear down the edicts. Usually those stories would not worry me, as this was their daily practice, but the event was followed by a strange power that lifted everybody high into the air for several moments. I remember falling to the ground, as if I was taken away from existence briefly and brought back. I thought the ending cycle was yon, and that we were all doomed to be judged on spot. But this power, its grasp unveiled to be something different from the Zamarakian plots. This was something greater, a howl, a call for help by the Anima mundi, or a vengeful cry of some sort by the Anima's incapacity. The guards and the knights finally left, and gave me 100 coins as recompense for bothering me. They waddled away from the dead trees and across the bridge. The green and healthy trees near the bridge weaved in the wind, and the sight of it calmed me down, and I breathed a sigh of relief at their departure.